Brian, thanks for coming
Welcome, Jeremiah.
all the way up here from Arizona,
Concho. Yep.
Concho, Arizona.
Yep.
Man. So, for those who don't know, who are listening, Brian Parks is my ex neighbor who lived behind me, who was really, and I'm going to butcher this. So, just correct me,
Sure.
correct everything I'm about to say and mess up here. So, you basically, you grew your own food,
Mm-hmm.
your own meat, even your own, some of your own vegetables, not all of them. I think you bought some of them at that time when you lived here in the Denver area.
Yeah, not a natural green thumb, so the gardening piece isn't necessarily my strong suit yet. Yeah.
Right. Then before you left, you had already left your job,
Yep.
basically retired,
Yeah. Yep.
and sold everything here and moved down to Arizona.
Correct.
And down there, you live off of the land.
Right.
Are you off the grid?
Yeah. No utilities.
No utilities. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure I got that right because so you have the solar and the batteries to charge everything.
Yep. Pieced all that together.
You have your growing vegetables down there.
Trying to. It's
Trying
been
to.
a very hot, dry summer so far, and the soil's pretty poor. But yeah, I've got some things are working.
Some livestock.
Yep. Goats and rabbits.
Yeah. Yeah. No more chickens and quail. You had told me that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Not right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what made you, I guess, what made you leave, what made you want to leave Denver and go off the grid?
I looked a lot at how I could go off grid here in the city, and that's pretty tough to do. They prefer that you have utility hookups and water and everything.
In the Denver metro area, go off the
Yeah,
grid?
I was looking seriously. Can I get rid of the Excel bill? Can I get rid of the water bill? I'd have my water bill just down as small as I could get it, 1,000 gallons a month. So it's $3 for water and then $35 for everything else. So you just can't really get rid of those bills, no matter how little you use. I can get away with a very minimal solar system, not even close to what you'd see on a house around here that could run an entire house. It just doesn't take that much if you're frugal with it. But the real impetus to leave Denver was just the rising expenses. You can do a lot with a decent sized lot like we had here or have here. But boy, there's some of those expenses in the city you just can't get away from. You can only be so frugal in town.
So the water, you were down to 1,000 gallons a month?
1,000 gallons a month was my average. They would send people out because they thought the meter was broken. Because, depending on how it registers, if you're only at 900 gallons, it may not actually click and even register, so it looks like you're using zero. So they would send people out to check the meter thinking it was broken.
So your service fee was more than your water bill.
Way more.
Yeah.
90%. 10% usage, 90% service fees.
Wow. And so I remember you had rabbits up here, which you still have down in Arizona.
Yep, some of the same ones.
So you were basically breeding those for meat.
Meat and fur.
Meat and fur.
Yep.
What were you doing with the fur?
I've tried to make a few things. Rabbit fur is a little tricky. It's not the strongest leather. But I have sort of a pseudo rabbit blanket that I use during the winter. It's sewn onto a wool blanket backing. But that's a nice warm blanket. And there's definitely a learning curve to tanning the hides and things. So still trying to figure that out. But the pelts are just too nice to toss or compost.
How many rabbits do you have?
I just put about 5 in the freezer before I came up here. So I think I'm down to about 12.
And how fast do they reproduce?
They are pregnant for about a month. And then minimum, you probably want to give them 2 months to grow out. I usually give them longer. I'd rather have them in the cage than in the freezer if I have room. So I tend to let them get them pretty big. So a lot of the ones I just harvested were born probably in January, about 6 months. And that also lets the the pelt thicken up a little bit. The hide is a little bit better to work with, a little larger.
How is rabbit meat?
The ones I have, they're a heritage breed called Silver Fox, and they're an old meat breed and fur breed. So I don't know. I think I've been told that the breeds are all different. I haven't tried a lot of different breeds of rabbit. I know like the California, New Zealand are probably the most two common breeds that people raise because they tend to grow the fastest, get the biggest, the good meat to bone proportion. Um, but the ones I have, they have plenty of fat on them, which is one of the things you always hear about rabbit is it's too lean. But if you're raising them, you can feed them up and get a lot of fat on there. So I don't know. I equate it to sometimes it reminds me of kind of like dark meat on a turkey. And after it's cooked, a lot of times it reminds me of almost pulled pork. Just really tender, falls apart, darker than chicken or something like that. But I think it's delicious. Most of the people who've tried it think so as well. Several people have started growing or raising them after having mine, after trying it.
Do they get some babies from you or?
Yeah, I've done some trades with people, and
Nice.
the one neighbor, she goes down to the valley in Phoenix and buys them there some.
Is there a lot of bartering where you, because I know there's other people that live kind of close to you out there.
Yeah, my closest neighbors, they're probably about 2 city blocks away. And, but it's a straight line of sight, so I can see them over there if there's a problem or anything. And we can almost yell back and forth if it's not too windy. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I remember you were telling me that. You also have goats.
Yes, just kind of got started on goats in December and started seriously milking them about a month ago, making a little bit of cheese, just getting started with that.
What do you feed them?
Mostly alfalfa hay at the moment. There's some of the natural vegetation that they really like. So I'm kind of looking at how I manage the natural stuff that's already growing there. Trying to maximize that and kind of get off the alfalfa. Like I talked about with utilities, I try to be frugal, and boy, feed prices have been crazy the last few years.
So you do drive and get some feed.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
they're 90% store feed,
Yeah.
and some horse pellets, which is just another form of alfalfa.
Yeah. But your compound is like completely off the grid. You do your water you pump out of the ground as well.
Yep, the well's about 300 feet.
Yeah. And he was telling me you're the one that taught me about using air to get the water out of the ground.
Right. So instead of having, at least a several $100 pump at the bottom of the well, use an air compressor that lives up top, and then it's just an air line down almost to the bottom, and then a water line coming back up. Kind of pump the air down. The air bubble kind of forms a piston, drives about 90 foot of water with each bubble up out the top, up the hill sideways into my cistern where it's stored.
And then you water from there, or you
Yeah, just gravity from there. Everything's
from there.
gravity feed. I got
Yeah.
place that on the highest point of the property.
Yeah, you sent me your YouTube video that you kind of made that kind of shows it. Was that just a
Gushing
quick
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a quick little video, but you can also search online and find videos on how to do it.
Yeah, there's a channel, Fry TV, Fry TV, and that's where I kind of got the design from. There's some complicated designs out there, and this one's just dead simple. It's just a small 3/8 inch airline with a brass elbow going into the black polyethylene pipe. It doesn't even have to be airtight where it goes in. It just needs a clamp so it can't fall out because the air bubble naturally wants
Lifts
to
the
go up.
water out.
Once it gets in there, it doesn't try to go back out sideways. It wants to go up. So yeah, it's just each air bubble becomes like a piston and carries however much water up it can. So the faster you're able to pump the air, the more water you get and the higher velocity. But it comes out in spurts, so it's not really suitable to plumb like straight into a house. You turn on the sink and get.
Yeah, you want to put
Yeah.
that in a
So it goes
holding
into the tank, and
Yep.
then I pull the water out of the bottom of the tank via gravity to all over the property.
Yeah, it's a genius system. After you told me about it and I looked it up, I was just blown away.
It keeps the expensive parts above ground instead of 300 foot down.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
you don't have to run a big, heavy electrical cable down to the bottom either. It's another savings.
Yeah, because with the well that was at your house, I was thinking of dropping, an expensive pump down there and doing that whole system. The typical well system. And after you told me that, I was like, man, this is way better.
Yeah, if we had a little time, man, it would be probably $50 at Home Depot to get you up and running, assuming you already have a compressor.
Yeah, whereas a pump is like $1,000, a good pump.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They're all over the range. I've seen quotes. Well, one of my neighbors right next door, about the same well depth and everything. It was about $8,000 for the well, and it was another $7,000 to buy and install the pump for him.
Yeah.
So it doubled the price of the well.
So you can provide water for your animals, for your garden.
Yep, have drip lines.
And you're also starting a forest.
Yeah, and
the
garden and the food forest, that's all in one. It's just all intermingled.
Because this is in the middle of the desert in Arizona.
Yeah, and it's it's not like Phoenix. It's 5,400-foot elevation. The climate's real similar to Denver in a lot of ways. Although you guys are getting the water this year. We haven't had anything since probably February.
Oh yeah,
It's been really dry. So the stuff that's green is where there's drip line irrigating.
So when you say like Denver, when you told me where you moved, I looked it up, and it's pretty arid. It looks like dry desert. It looks like southern Colorado. New Mexico.
That's probably closer.
Yeah,
that's probably closer. But the elevation's the same. I think our 90s is kind of as hot as we get. 100's pretty rare, which is similar to Denver. You'll probably get 100 a few times each summer, but not every single day, and not 115 on a regular basis.
So what other animals do you have right now?
Have the cats to keep the mouse and rodent population down, and dog for helping me with the goats, although I haven't really trained her much on that. She started to do a little bit of goat herding. When they get out, she helps me corral them back in, which is great. And she's also the alarm. She watches for the coyotes and whatnot coming through and sounds the alarm. So yeah, but that's it right now.
Why did you get rid of the chickens and the quail?
Lost all my chickens. Because you probably remember me running around trying to catch 8 of them to take down there with me when I was leaving, and left the rest with you.
Yeah.
Do you still have any of those?
No, my wife made me get rid of them.
Well,
the eggs were great, though.
The owls got rid of mine.
Oh.
They were getting into the coop that I was renting a place for a few months while I built. And come to find out, I wasn't sure what was happening the first couple. And then, a couple got sick, and then the owls took out the rest. And I just have to, it's another project to build new housing for them, and it needs to be kind of hardened out there. We got serious wind, and then, the coyotes and everything else. So
there's a lot of predators, huh?
Yep. Hawks and owls. Not as many hawks as here, though. Not as many hawks. We don't have the raccoons, which was always what got my chickens in town here. Haven't seen any foxes, but they're definitely around. But the coyotes, they definitely cruise through, and we're pretty close to the Little Colorado River. And they use that as a highway because it's pretty dry. So that's a nice, safe place for them to cruise through. And then there's other places where you can tell this is like the Little Coyote Highway. So, yeah.
So are you
that's
wanting,
the big one.
Yeah. Are you wanting to eventually build like a cage structure for the chickens moving forward?
I don't know if I'm going to go back with chickens. There's so many people that do that. I can trade with 2 of my immediate neighbors are doing chickens, so I can just get eggs and trade them for eggs, and that's let me focus on really like the goat milk, the cheese, really like the rabbit meat. So kind of on eggs. Sometimes I want eggs, a lot of times I don't. So
yeah, because the quail, you were eating the quail eggs too.
Yeah, and then after a while, it's like, I'm just going to hard boil these, and the dog ends up with half of them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I kind of go through phases on the eggs. I don't know that I'm going to go back to poultry anytime soon.
And you were eating the quail sometimes, right? Like
yes,
some of
yes.
them?
I did 125 that one summer that I hatched out, raised, and butchered. They're excellent. There's a lot of advantages to quail. The Coturnix quail are really good starter bird. They're great for the city, too, on smaller properties. They're fantastic. But a friend of mine he lost all his quail, so I just sold mine off because I hadn't been breeding them out. And seemed like kind of just pets at that point.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. Everybody kind of seems to go through that. They'll try a lot of different animals. A lot of people, it seems like everybody tries goats for a little bit, and then a lot of people get rid of their goats. It's can be a sort of difficult animal to raise. They can be a handful.
Yeah. So your forest that you're starting, you told me you planted 500 of the, what type of trees were they again?
Bare root. So they're, between 18 inches, 3 foot long sticks, basically.
Right. But the species of tree.
Oh gosh, I'm shotgun approach. I don't know what's going to work out there, so I'm just trying a little bit of everything.
Oh, so a bunch of different ones?
And then whatever really takes off, I've started propagating grapes and things, doing cuttings and getting those to
Yeah.
leaf out. Grapes have done well for me. As far as food producing, service berries, strawberries, currants have done really well from things I planted last year that did well, and I've added more to. Some of my gooseberries have done well.
And you have to plant those in some type of shade. So you built like a little like structure to shade that stuff, right? Kind of.
Some of them prefer more shade. Like the strawberries, the more kind of plants they have around them, the better. The gooseberries, wish I could take better pictures of these. I just don't either have the camera or the skills for it. But places where I have, natural shrub here, some alfalfa that I planted here, and little gooseberry stuck down right in the middle.
Yeah.
That's the one that's taking off. The one that's kind of planted normally where it's got lots of room and no competition, like they say. Those are the ones that struggle because it's just too much wind, too much sun.
Yeah, and that's the secret. You got to keep like building things to shade things and build things to shade things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you sent me some pictures, I think, of some of the stuff, or what maybe that was in that video you sent me of the well, but I think it was in some other pictures you sent me where you had those little covered garden areas where you were growing stuff in there. Was it the little wood with the screen on it or something? Maybe that's where you used to have the.
I had done some raised beds
Yeah.
that had lids on. I was keeping the quail in there, and I was trying to figure out like a rotation for the quail. You see like the chicken tractors where you move them.
Mm-hmm.
Because anytime you have livestock in one spot too long, it tends to kind of make it toxic there. It's like too rich, too much animal waste in one spot. So you need to kind of keep moving them. Didn't really work out with the quail, but I think that's probably all you saw was I probably had some raised beds that had lids on for the quail.
Yeah. So when you got there was like no vegetation, no plants hardly.
The wild grasses. The best way to describe it is like if you're trying to walk through there without stepping on anything, you wouldn't have to really alter your stride. You just kind of pick a leisurely path through and just stay on the dirt because there's so much dirt in between the scrub brush. There's one plant they call Mormon tea that stays green year round. I'm not sure what else it's good for.
How many trees were there?
On the 40-acre parcel I'm living on, there's maybe 100 kind of scrubby junipers.
Yeah.
They grow really slow, huge root systems. They're pulling water from all over.
But you've planted how many trees now?
Like 500 if counting,
Yep.
the shrubs and berries and everything. Yeah, vines.
Yeah. And your goal is to make as much as possible, to make like a forest if you can.
Yeah. Well, and it won't. Yeah, exactly. A food forest is kind of what permaculture would call it. Just lots of. So for somebody like me who doesn't have a great green thumb for gardens and can't just grow huge tomatoes and everything, if you can get perennials established that are going to produce food every year, long term, that should be a lot less effort. And then the other thing I'm trying to grow a lot of is they call it like tree hay or forest. Lost the term. But yeah, tree hay, basically like something like black locust, which is a real high protein leaf where you grow trees intending to, kind of clip it late in the fall and then dry it. And then that becomes an alfalfa replacement for the goats and rabbits.
So eventually you can stop buying alfalfa or
Yeah,
a percentage of it
just,
at least.
gradual weaning off of it as that stuff gets established. Yeah.
Yeah.
So things like poplar, mulberry, willow. Saw today somebody said like even Siberian elm, which we have volunteering all over here in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember, we had a bunch of those along the tree line that were coming up into the power lines, and they grow 10 foot a year.
Oh yeah.
Those things. That's a lot.
I'm trying to fight some right now.
That grows pretty well down there, and somebody said that works as tree hay as well. So
Yeah.
maybe something else to try.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's trying to grow food and hay, but also, like with permaculture, everything. How many jobs can each plant do? Can it give you firewood? Can it give you flowers? Can it give you shade? Can you eat something off of it? Can
Feed
you
for
make
your
something
animals.
with the wood?
Yeah.
Yeah, all. So a lot of multi-purpose type things like that.
And that's where your focus is at.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
More so on the perennials than the gardening, really.
Yeah. What do you spend a month right now, do you think, on like living down there? Because you have some savings, a little bit, that you have.
That's
but
all I have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shooting for like 500 a month is the budget right now. And I don't think I'm quite getting there. Probably half of that is going to goats and rabbits and animal feed. They get more than I get from the grocery store, that's for sure.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah.
So for yourself, you're thinking around 250 a month
Like for groceries?
for anything that you
Oh,
buy. What about gas? Anything?
and I'm lucky I'm able to on a good week, I drive out once. But I mean, minimum it's 60 miles round trip to a grocery store. So I try to do that as rarely as possible.
Right.
But yeah, something like that. It's, phone bill, car insurance, gas and groceries. Property taxes are cheap, and I don't really feel any need to have property insurance. So that's a big bill gone.
Yeah. What structures do you have right now on the property?
So I have a workshop that I'm using as a cabin. It's a really sturdily built 200 square foot with another 200 square foot loft. And that's all, like 2x6 framing, rock wool insulation, the fiber cement board, hardy board, siding. And I use that inside as well since it's workshop. Get really durable walls and great fireproofness as well because you get some wildfires out there. Yeah, so that's the one, and then another 200 foot for kind of a metal pole barn that I pieced together, and about another 200 square feet for the greenhouse. And those are the three structures I'm living out of right now. And obviously, 200 square foot is the cutoff for permitting. That's why
Right.
everything is that size.
Right.
And the loft doesn't count as square footage since it's a ladder, not stairs.
Nice.
So little things like that. But Apache County has great building codes for people who want to do like tiny houses. You can permit structures as small as 201 square feet. That can be a permitted tiny house that you can live in. So they're really pretty accepting. And I'd like to do, natural building. I've tried some rammed earth. Neighbors really want to do earth bags where, like you stuff the bags with the clay mix or the kind of adobe mix and build up layer
Like
by
hay
layer
and,
by layer.
hay and clay, kind of?
Yeah, I kind of misspoke. It's not so much adobe. It's really sand, clay mix, maybe a little bit of Portland cement in there to stabilize it, and then just the right amount of moisture. Yeah, I think you can do adobe down there. You can do just about anything if you can get a building engineer to sign off on it. Is bottom line. But
So you stay in any one of those structures you want to? You can sleep in and live in?
I just sleep in the workshop or outside, depending on the weather.
Outside sometimes?
Sometimes
That's got to be amazing.
it's great. I was told it's one of the few places in the country where you can reliably see the Milky Way still
Wow.
because it's that remote.
How is the view of the Milky Way
It's
there?
beautiful. The sky is amazing out there.
Wow. You can just see it clear?
Oh yeah, yep. Just like I remember from when I was a kid, camping in Colorado. I think you probably still see it the same in Colorado if you're in the right place.
Yeah, there's some places. And there's the area around Westcliff. Actually, a lot of towns around Westcliff. I forget that all the towns that are doing it, but they enacted like a light
Pollution.
light pollution. That's the term.
Yeah,
Light
yeah.
pollution free towns.
Nice.
So they
nice.
have their lights, their particular lights, they face down or something, or there's certain dimness or brightness, so you can still see the sky.
That's
Yeah,
that's such a simple thing to change.
yeah,
It's just
yeah,
redesigning porch lights.
yeah. I mean, probably easier for a small town than Denver metro area. It's impossible for here, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, but even if the manufacturer's just kind of like, you know what, we can make them all that were kind of work that way. Over time, they get replaced and it just gets better and better.
Yeah,
It doesn't necessarily have to be a big.
just with the amount of cars driving around here, they'll just shining headlights everywhere.
Also, that, yeah.
Probably
yeah.
just
And the smog.
yeah, you can't see through the smog.
Yeah.
Is it that bad these days?
It's not getting any better.
Yeah.
I just remember the
Yeah.
brown cloud from when we were kids, and that was something else.
Yeah, it's been worse.
When it was really socked in the 80s.
Yeah, when did you leave? You left. So for people who don't know, and I didn't say this earlier, but you used to be my neighbor behind me,
Mhm.
and I had bothered you at some point, seeing if you were ever interested in selling, I had mentioned it to you, and then you came to me later and said, you asked me if I was serious
Yeah.
about buying, and I said, yeah, what's going on? And you said, well, I'm leaving, and I'm selling, I'm getting out of here, and that's when you bought. So you bought the 40 acres in Arizona, and then you bought another 40 acres.
I actually bought two up front. I really only wanted the one. I was looking for 10 to 20, and then I found two 40-acre parcels a guy was selling together that were just amazing. There's an old stone ruin on it, close to the Little Colorado River, which is almost a dry riverbed. There's always moisture down there. You can go get stuck in the mud if you go for a walk down there.
No real water though, huh?
No. 2 years, well, the last 2 summers we've had great monsoons, like really good all-time monsoon seasons, at least recorded history, 150 years or whatever. And so 2 years ago, it actually flooded its banks and came up onto my property. And I got to see that the 100-year flood map isn't very accurate. It went well past that. But that's land they're kind of long, skinny lots with the river way down here and all the building and stuff way up here. It's quite a bit more elevation. So I'm not worried about the flooding, but it was cool to see what that river looks like when it really gets going.
So beside the fact that you wanted to lower all your bills,
just more flexibility and freedom, not worrying about building inspectors coming by, not having, I did the one rock retaining wall on the north side.
Yeah.
And one of the neighbors called, had the building inspector come out and look at it. And I was just like, oh, it's so silly. But
yeah,
it's kind of, with this sort of density, you have to do that sort of stuff.
It's happened to me happened to me a couple times. You remember?
Yeah. The shed. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember.
Yeah. I built it too high. So, but whatever. Rules are rules.
Right. So I went to where there's very few rules.
Yeah. Is it nice to be away from the rat race, from the crowds, from the traffic?
It's always a couple of taps away. The traffic is great. Love being away from that. And even, I'm only 3/4 of a mile down a dirt road off a 65-mile-an-hour highway, but it's just so vacant out there that it's really rare to get any, like once in a while you can hear a semi or something cruise through. It's far enough away that it's really quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, it's really great. But, YouTube, the internet, it's all still available out there. So
You're kind of cheating a little bit on that, huh?
I keep thinking maybe I should go back to the flip phone and just really cut that off. But I don't know. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on in the world, and it's not all bad.
Yeah, because we were talking. You watch. There's a couple of YouTube channels that you follow.
Yeah, James Prigioni.
Yep,
That's a big one. I know you know that one.
Yeah, the Jersey guy from New Jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the tree, the fruit garden.
He's got the food forest. He's
Food
a big gardener.
forest.
Yeah,
that's what he calls
He does
it.
the food forest.
He's given me some great ideas.
Yeah, he's got some great stuff. One of my favorites is Edible Acres. The guy out of a couple out of Ithaca, New York. And they have a few different properties, and one of them is not that big. I think maybe it's a half acre, maybe a quarter acre, something like that. And they run like a plant nursery out of there. I bought some plants from them to try out. But yeah, he's very. He really likes to look and kind of understand what's going on and make small changes and then watch, which is really good permaculture strategy. Observe a lot, interact a little bit, observe some more, versus just busting out the skid steer and going to town.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so I don't know. I'm somewhere in between. I've got my tractor. I definitely have moved some earth around with that.
It's okay to have a little technology. It's
Oh
all right.
yeah. Oh yeah. But
we don't want you to go crazy out there in the middle of nowhere.
so
Yeah.
now that's probably my favorite one. I've learned a lot from him. He's got some great systems and just, trying very simple, small adjustments versus, okay, I'm going to just wipe it, get a clean slate, and then try to enforce my image on it. So a lot of what I'm doing is kind of, shotgun approach, try as many things as I can. And
Yeah. So your water system is the well.
Yep.
And you're using the air to push the water out.
Yep, just a Lowe's air compressor.
Yep. And what is your electrical supply?
So there's you know, apparently endless supply of used solar panels out there. So it's about $70 gets you a really nice used 250-watt panel. And I run off about 8 right now. 8 panels. That's at 2,000 watts of solar, not the whole time. And then I assembled my own battery box. Actually, I've got a few different battery boxes, one for the workshop, one up where the house will be that runs for right now, it just runs the well in the greenhouse, which doesn't need a whole lot of power, mostly just lights. So yeah, that's just, the lithium batteries have gotten so cheap and they last a long time. Just can't let them freeze. So I kind of had to engineer some heating solutions and temperature controllers and things, about the most complicated part of it. But yeah, internet has everything. DIY Solar with Will Prouse. It's a well-known channel for if you want to learn how to put together a solar system. He's got everything you'd never need to know and more.
So you're using used solar panels?
Yeah.
And what's the because they always say they deteriorate, but are they doing great for you?
Typically, they're warranted that at 20 years old, they should still produce 80% of their rated output. So what, for a 250-watt panel, that'd be like a 50-watt loss. It'd come down to like 200 watts if I did the math right. I'm seeing them output exactly what they're rated at.
So why do we discard them at 20 years? That's what we do here in the city, it seems like.
I think it's a corporate thing typically where they have a huge installation and they're just like, maybe there's a grant available, so they upgrade and the used ones become available. I'm not sure exactly.
Well, they can't sell you more if they all work forever,
Yeah.
Yeah, but they seem to last well past what the warranty rating is. So I guess I'll find out someday what the true lifespan is.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad there's people out there like you who are taking advantage.
Oh, it's so common. Yeah, there's I think 4 or 5 different guys who are buying pallets of used panels and reselling them, like on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist. It's a good small business for a couple of folks out there.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah.
And they'll put together the whole system if that's what you want. They'll piece it all together, get you the inverter and charge controller and all of that.
So do you just gravity feed to your sinks and stuff, or do you like pail water to where you need it?
Yeah, I have 2 of like the in-ground frost-free faucets, if you've ever seen those. Just like a really like 4 to 6 foot tall pipe. You bury the bottom 2 foot of it with the pipe going in, and it's got the big crank handle on top. It's designed because it's kind of like the ones that go into the basement where the actual shutoff is way down at the bottom, even though the handle is at top.
Yeah, just like the ones that are in the house, the frost-proof ones, they have that plunger that's back in there.
Yeah, and these have a little drain built in the bottom, so when you shut it off, anything that's in there drains out, and then it can't freeze.
Yep, automatic drain in the bottom. Yep.
Yeah, and then I just mostly just haul water. I have some hose hookups where if I need to kind of spot irrigate, try to get seeds to germinate, I can use that or whatever. But typically, yeah, it's just hauling buckets. Keeps your water usage down. I know exactly how much water I go through.
Man,
I'm a little jealous, man. I don't know about you, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about this earlier where, some people like Jeremiah and I, we hear that you went to Arizona, you're living off the land, and we're like, man, that sounds amazing. I'd love to do that. And then there's the other side. Like, if I told my wife that, she'd be like, that's the worst thing I've ever heard. And I don't want to do that. There's like 2.
Right. Yeah. I don't know anybody who's asked to come live with me. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But no, probably 90% plus of my water goes out the drip line to the plants and things. That's really where most of it goes. Although the goats use quite a bit, but then
into the forest you're growing and all that.
But all the goat water ends up going back into the ground too, one way or the other. Either the bucket gets gross and gets dumped onto some good spot,
or they pee on the ground.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's great.
Have you run into a situation, because you've been there for 3 years now?
Yeah, just over 3.
So have you run into a situation yet where you, like an uh-oh moment where you mismanaged resources and you're like, well, I mean, you're not that far. Like you said, you can drive 60 miles or whatever to town and get whatever you need. But a moment where like it's the middle of the night and you need water and you don't have any because you mismanaged it or something like that.
I have a little generator. So yeah, because, I'm limited how much I can run the irrigation by what the solar panels are putting into the battery. So if I really have to have water and the batteries are drained, then I bust out the generator, which stinks. So So it seems so quaint or so old fashioned to fire up this stinky generator when the panels and batteries are so nice and quiet and just do their job. But yeah, definitely times where I have drained the batteries is probably the main thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine you're out in the desert and the running a generator. It's super loud when you're used to just quiet all the
Right,
time.
right. I mean, the air compressor's plenty loud too.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
But batteries have frozen on me and they have protection built in. But then, you wake up and nothing works because the batteries are frozen and they're in self-protect mode. They won't charge, they won't discharge.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Did we talk about this already? What's your heating situation?
So made the place really heat efficient. I've got just a small propane portable heater, little buddy heater. It's rated for indoor. Uses the green 1 pound canisters.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got like you can refill those off of a 20 pound tank. So that's what I do. And about 1 20 pound tank a month in winter is all the propane I need to do a little bit of cooking and keep that place warm.
Yeah, and you probably
Warm
just
enough.
get a little bit of heat going, and then just you kind of regulate that probably.
I wear a lot of wool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't get it up to 68 or anything like that. I just crank it for a few hours in the morning before the sun comes up and makes that tolerable. And then once the sun comes up, it's not bad. I've got decent passive solar on the place. Main thing I did was sprung for the nice glass screen doors. I've got one on the east, one on the west. So then, in the morning I open the interior door and I have a huge, door size glass window there to take advantage of the sun in the morning. And then around noon, shut that one, wait a few hours, open the other side and get the afternoon sun in. So that does a really good job on the workshop cabin that I live in. And I can't imagine heating it for much less than that.
How does it feel coming back to? I mean, you're back in Denver today for a couple days. How does it feel coming back to this?
Yeah,
city?
got the rush hour traffic jam on I-70 coming back from the airport, and started to think maybe we should just turn around and see if I can move my flight back up a day. No, it's fine. It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice to be back. I liked it here. I really things have been a little different. I really would have tried to sort of maximize that third of an acre next door and see what I could do with that. I spent a lot of time thinking about ways to really, and there's other people that do it. It's fascinating if people are interested. I don't know YouTube channels, but you definitely see those people on a quarter acre who are feeding a family of 4. And it's a lot of times that'll be California or Florida where they're able to do that. But
Yeah, I'm not living off the grid, but I think you'll like what I've done with the place. After
Yeah,
the
I can't wait to
podcast,
see it.
we'll
I
go
can't wait to see it.
walking. Yeah, I think you'll like it. Definitely
sure.
planted a lot of fruit trees and you'll see the huge area I have for a garden.
Nice.
For vegetables and stuff like that. For the animals, we're probably not going to do too much on the animals right now, unless the world goes crazy. If the world goes crazy and there's a shortage on some stuff, then yeah,
Right.
probably look at some stuff there. But yeah, there's a lot of you can. So in the city, there's a lot of things you can do.
Well, we got
That's a
good
good
zoning
point.
here. There's good zoning here because it's one of the more agricultural versions of the residential zoning. So, what is it? Roosters you can't have, but a lot of other things. Pretty much. Well, I guess no pigs, no cows. Although I know we've seen neighbors with pigs.
I mean, there is cattle down the street.
A lot bigger property.
Yeah, that's true. It's based on size of property, maybe.
It is. Yeah, it's you have to.
You're
People-
definitely not going to feed a cow on a quarter acre.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know if you can have one though, because you can have, I think, 3 horses
I think
on
they
these
got
properties.
special dispensation for that. I think they had them and come out and inspect their facilities and say that they could have the third. I remember hearing that, but
Yeah, there's definitely it's by square footage though in Lakewood. It's by square footage.
yeah, you definitely are entitled to a certain amount, and then you can, and they're flexible if you want to go past that a little bit. They'll come out and say, oh yeah, you got a good barn, you got good water, you can go ahead and do more.
But I think everybody should plant fruit trees on their properties. I think they should do gardens. Look at the food forest guy. What's his Jamie
James Prigioni.
James Prigioni.
Yeah.
He's in a suburb
Yeah. Yep.
in New Jersey, and he's doing all that in a regular suburban setting.
Right. Right.
So that's a great example. Somebody can do everything that he's doing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because you've got easy access to wood chips. That's what I really miss most is there's so much, I guess you call it waste, but useful waste that's free in the city.
You'll see when we go back here. I've got about a foot of wood chips in the backyard.
I saw the pile too.
That's an extra pile that hasn't been used yet.
Yeah, I've got wood chips all over my place too.
Yeah, everybody's catching the fever around here.
Yeah.
Getting that sort of stuff out where I am, you're paying by the cubic yard and you're paying a delivery fee on top if you want to get wood chips hauled out.
Yeah, do you miss because that's great for the ground treatment,
Oh
right?
yeah, that would be amazing if I had a bunch of wood chips. Love that.
If you can get that would help you retain a lot of moisture in the soil.
Yeah. So I'm just kind of, I'm having to grow my own mulch because that's really the key is, first shade the soil, get the roots going in the soil, and then, the life comes along. And that was, one of the big, great moments was mucking out under the rabbits last fall, and I find earthworms because there are no worms at all out there naturally. It's just too dry, too hot.
So where'd they appear from? Or were they already in the ground? It's just maybe just a couple and they reproduced?
Got some plants from a neighbor.
Oh.
I got some willows that he had taken cuttings of and gave to me in his soil. And he's been out there long enough and developing it long enough that, and I don't know, he may have bought, back in the day, he may have bought some red wigglers to get started or something like that. But yeah, so a few traveled down and were able to make and survive. So, because last year was my first big grow season, so it's really pretty early in the process. But and then again this spring, I was pulling some of the native grasses out of places where I wanted to seed, and kept pulling up earthworms. I was so excited.
Oh, that's huge for the dirt.
Oh yeah, it's a big difference out there. So
yeah, do you try to get, like, if you come across wood, do you just load it in your truck and try to take it back to your property?
I actually have a friend who really needs firewood all the time, so mostly I load up wood and take it over to him.
Do you tell him to give you his coals out of his fire pit? Or do you do that?
No, I haven't. Haven't done any biochar yet. I've got some experiments I want to do with old hot water tanks. Pull off all the outside, get down to the steel black tank.
Yeah.
I want to see if I can take like electric heating elements from a stove, and just run that. Put a big string of those used solar panels to get the voltage up high enough, and just cook it that way.
To make the biochar.
Because typically when they're making biochar, they'll burn maybe a third of it to create the heat, and then they'll put that out somehow, smother it, starve the oxygen.
Yep.
So you end up with maybe 2/3.
Yeah, that's how they make charcoal too.
Yeah.
Like natural charcoal.
It's the same stuff.
Not the synthetic charcoal, natural charcoal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So want to see if I can do it using those cheap solar panels and some salvaged materials, and want to do it all winter in the greenhouse to add some heat in there.
Yeah.
So
I've been using all the ash from our fire pit. I spread it around everywhere.
yeah, absolutely.
And I think it helps because the soil, it's really clay here, as you know, and with the wood chips and the ash, it really seems to change the composition of the soil.
Nice.
So
Excellent. Yeah.
yeah, too bad you don't have wood chips down there, man.
People know. Everybody out there's into permaculture. It seems like everybody I talk to in there's out to permaculture and wants to do the same stuff. And everybody knows the value of wood chips. Nobody's giving that away. And you probably have to drive a good 45 miles till there's higher elevations. You start to really get like big pine trees and things. And
Yeah.
might be wood chips out there, but that's tree trimming companies aren't going to drive 45 miles to dump free chips.
Yeah, I remember when I bought your property, you were doing the hugelkultur.
Yeah,
as well.
I've done a couple of those.
And that's with the wood burying the wood, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and what is that? That's an old German technique or something?
Yeah, Sepp Holzer. I think he's Austrian, and he does that on his properties in Austria. And if anybody hasn't seen what he's able to turn a pine forest into, I would definitely look for him. It's Holzer, Holzer. I don't think there's a T in there, but yeah, he's a magician. He does amazing things to property.
And what does the wood do for the ground?
So it starts to break down. It becomes like a sponge. Adds carbon, texture, like you're saying with the clay. Get something else in there. I mean, it's organic matter, but slowly decomposes. But really, it brings the fungal component in. It gets those. Everyone's afraid of bacteria, afraid of fungus, but that's like 90% of soil life, and almost all of it's beneficial. And very few bacteria or fungal that are really dangerous. You really want to encourage that.
Yeah, we have so many mushrooms right now all over.
Nice.
When we walk back there after this podcast, you might see a bunch, and they're a bunch of different varieties.
Do you have any of the large kind of reddish ones? You have the wine cap mushrooms that I inoculated?
I haven't seen any of those, but we'll look at them when we walk. You can tell me if
Those are
that's what
tasty, and I don't really love mushrooms, but those are good.
Really?
I've eaten a bunch of those out of the yard before I moved.
Yeah, but it's just amazing to see, because I've watched a few documentaries about mushrooms and kind of how they created this network in the dirt, and they kind of communicate with the other plants, and it's kind of just
Nutrient transport and trading and things.
yeah, like all the trees and the mushrooms and everything trade nutrients and water. Even they'll send water to each other, like different trees and stuff, right? So it's just amazing to see that happening in my backyard, and with all the, I mean, I planted, since you're going to be amazed the amount of trees that are back there now. I have over 100 trees planted back there.
Wow, that's great.
That doesn't include all the plants that are back there,
sure.
flowers and other types of plants. So, but yeah, it's just amazing just to feel. I feel like they're like, it's just, I feel like it's life. I go back there and I just feel like it's
a great sign.
Breathing.
It's a great sign.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get some. Nothing edible, but just tiny little mushrooms. Different.
You're
places
getting mushrooms out there?
Little bit. I think it's the goat bedding, and that's the big plus. And that's why I'm not upset about how much I'm spending on goat feed, because I get so much manure and bedding, and I mean that's pretty much all I have. Unless I want to go buy wood chips or, cow manure from 60 miles away.
Yeah.
It costs so much to have anything shipped or delivered anymore.
Yeah.
Diesel prices and whatnot.
Yeah. So it's just growing for you out there.
It's
Expanding.
it's starting to work. There's some really great signs that it's starting to work. The black locust trees have probably been the biggest winner as far as biomass production. Some of those have gone from 18-inch pinky thick sticks last April, so they grew all last summer, and then they're coming up this spring. At the base, I can't even get my hand around it. In just over a year of growth, and they're pushing 10 foot tall.
Oh man.
And those send out lateral runners and then shoots.
Are those the ones that have like the leaves like the honey locust, but they have flowers too?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, I seen a bunch of those this weekend up in the mountains.
Got one right by the garage back there.
Yeah, they have the thorns on them when they're young.
Yeah.
And then
kind of
when
like
they get
rosebush thorns.
Yeah, that's right. You were telling me that they do that when they're young to protect themselves from being eaten by
my jackrabbits and other things. Yeah,
deer or whatever
they wipe
else.
mine out. They and the rabbits don't seem to care that much about the thorns. They
keep going for
they
it.
figure it out.
But then when they get big enough, that you don't see the thorns anymore.
Well, then all they do is they keep the bottom 1 to 2 foot nice and open, which you want anyways. Probably.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are taking off. Those are really doing well for me.
So are you really happy that you moved out there and got out of the city?
Yes. Yeah.
Or is that the right question?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of ways the city wasn't working for me, but there's definitely a lot to miss. But no, I think this is where I'll be for 50 years, something like that. Yeah, so it's perfect for me. It's just what I need. It's just getting
Amazing.
started.
It sounds, so tell me if I'm wrong, but it sounds to me like more than wanting to necessarily just escape the city, you were wanting to be in control of your property, your surroundings. Because every time we bring up the city, you don't seem to be like, I needed to get away from it.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest, no, it was really stressful being here the last few years. And, as everything's getting expensive, I mean, it really did feel like I was being pushed out. Like, okay, we know what we want the city to be, and it doesn't look like you. So, do something, but either change or get out. And so I left. But no, I don't know. That may be sort of imagining that to some degree.
Well, it is interesting. I spoke to somebody I knew who sold solar panels,
Mm-hmm.
and I was talking to them about like, oh, so you could just, they're good enough now. You could put them in your house and you could just go off grid. And they were like, well, no, you can't. You can't like completely disconnect, is what they told me.
Yeah.
You have to always stay connected, and if you make an excess, it feeds it back to the city. But like to completely disconnect from the power grid, they're like, that's not an option, which is interesting.
And I considered at one point, I'm like, well, I wonder if I stop paying my bill for a few months and they shut me off, then am I off grid?
It's a way to test it. Yeah.
But I never would have tried to like, if I had done something like that, I think I would have just set up a parallel wiring system for lights and a few things. I wouldn't have connected it to the house wiring.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of danger with if you connect your panels to the wiring and then something breaks and there's a guy working on the line and now everything's off except your panels are still feeding power in or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's some concerns there. You can't.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, you could disconnect the wires that come in from Excel.
Get up
And
there
if you're in your
with the
house.
bolt cutters and
That's what they did when I did an addition on my house. They just went up there and cut it hot.
did they really?
Oh yeah, it dropped right to the ground, hot. And they said, "Don't touch that. We'll be back later to reconnect it," because I was putting in a new panel. Yeah,
Wow, I just heard. I was in the car and the radio was on. I haven't listened to the radio in forever, and there was an ad from, I think it was Excel, and they said, if you see a power line, don't touch it because it might be live. Just because it's cut doesn't mean it's not live. And I was like, something must have happened recently that made them put that out.
might have been an off-grid guy who
Yeah.
cut the wires.
Came
Yeah.
to town and got crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Brian's never been bitter about I've never seen you be bitter about the city. In fact, you just mentioned it that you do miss some things about the city, probably some conveniences.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah, being able to just go get a load of free wood chips, that was nice.
Yes, that was a good deal.
Yeah.
They got sick of me after a while there. But yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, he dropped a ton in my yard. Because he had too many up there. He had no room.
Beautiful.
So he just started dumping them with the trucks down here.
Well, and like when I built the greenhouse, I think I used 9 or 10 sliding glass windows, or no, sliding glass doors to get all the glass instead of doing plastic, because the plastic just doesn't hold up out there.
On your spot in Arizona?
Yeah. But
Yeah.
in town, you could just, if you spent 6 months, you could collect those sliding glass doors for free. Whereas out there, you're going to have to try to go to Phoenix, drive 4 hours, 3.5 hours to go get them. Or what I did, I just bought them off a neighbor who'd already collected them. And, I paid him, got them pretty cheap, but still ended up having to buy them instead of just picking them up for free.
So what are some recommendations that you would make to somebody who is thinking about going off grid and maybe looking for some land and doing something similar to what you're doing?
Ooh, I don't know. It's, I would say most of the people who try it find out it's probably not for them. There's been a lot of people who've moved out and bought land in this area since the pandemic hit, who decided they wanted to get out of the city and do the same thing. And you see people and they set up their fifth wheel and they start setting up stuff, and then 6, 9, 12 months later, they're gone. Just didn't work out. So I don't know. I figure out, I guess, how to kind of see if you're really up for it or not.
You got a boot camp you're going to start
No. No camps.
just build another little 200 square foot structure
A little bunkhouse.
and just say, okay, I'm going to teach you how to do this, but you can come be a hand for me for 90 days, and at the end of the 90 days I'll give you your off-grid certificate and you're ready.
Yeah, that'd be a good way to get help for a week.
For a week.
For 1 week.
That's probably how long they'd last. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
it's definitely not for everybody.
for sure.
Ladies
Yeah.
next door and I talk. There's a really nice couple next door. I kind of skipped over this, but yeah. So I started out with the 2 parcels, and then met some really great ladies who were actually kind of upset that I had purchased those out from under them. So we became friends. I actually hired them. They helped me with 2 of those 3 buildings, including the workshop. They were my crew. And they ended up, they're buying the one. So I'm keeping one. And then I went ahead, the one on the other side of me came up for sale. So now I have that one. So at the moment I have 3 parcels.
That are 40 acres.
Yeah. And then it'll drop to 2 here pretty soon.
So you have 120, you'll be down to 80.
Yeah.
That's a lot though for out there.
It's more than I need.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, none of it's farmland. It's open grazing. So unless you fence off your acreage, somebody has grazing rights, and there will be cows coming through, and they come through and they ate they ate all the wires off the solar panels. They step on stuff. They wreak
Very
havoc.
destructive.
So we got them fenced out finally after they did a few $100 damage, nothing too terrible. Yeah, and then there's another 120 to the south of me that's not fenced. So that's, just, it's like a 250 acre dog park kind of. Take the dog anywhere. If it's not fenced off, you can just go explore.
Yeah. What kind of predators have you seen out there?
Coyotes, owls, hawks.
No mountain lions?
No, seen some suspicious prints, maybe bobcat.
Probably bobcat, yeah.
There's stories that bears will roam through, but I think they have a pretty large circle or circuit, maybe you'd say, that they roam. So not too often do they come through.
How far are you from the bottom of the Rockies? Because I know the Rockies touch down into Arizona, right?
I don't know.
I thought they ended in the
I'm not
top
sure
of
how
Arizona.
far.
Is that right?
Let's say I drove for hour and a half or 2 hours today before I hit the Continental Divide. I noticed when I crossed because it was so not like crossing it in Colorado. Like I was like, oh wait, I'm in the mountains. I hadn't realized. It's very gradual getting up there. I don't know what the elevation was, but I'm sure it wasn't.
Google says the Rockies end in New Mexico, southwestern New Mexico.
So yeah, and I'm only. 40.
So they don't even go into Arizona? What are the mountains that are in northern Arizona?
So closest to the White Mountains, actually the White Mountain Lakes is kind of the area. To the south of me, at least, I'm not sure exactly what its area is. But yeah, I'm only 40 miles, more or less, from the New Mexico border. So I'm really close to New Mexico.
The Rockies do not extend into the state of Arizona.
I got to go back to school, man.
I'm down there and I don't explore. Like I said, I'm trying to save gas, or trying not to spend too much on gas or put too many miles on the truck. So I know way less about Arizona than I should, having been there 3 years.
Yeah, but I mean, you're trying to save resources too.
Yeah,
you're not just driving just to.
I should explore though.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I heard they have some mountains up there. They have some forests and stuff.
Yeah, there's. Flagstaff has a ski area. That's a couple miles down the interstate for me. Kind of heading in the other direction, sort of southeast. You climb up, 8, 9, 10,000 feet, and everything you're driving there reminds you of some road in Colorado. There's plenty of high elevation through there.
Yeah. So you live alone out there right now?
Yep.
No plans to have any roommates, or not looking for any?
No, my neighbors who are like I said, about 2 city blocks away. That's perfect.
By roommates, I mean significant other? Nothing like that?
I don't know. It's a tough ask. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Not sure who's going to be interested. I haven't tried to test the waters. No.
Well, if there's any ladies out there who like this young man here, email us, and we'll play matchmaker. You gotta be willing to live off the grid, though.
I get tons of emails. They're just all in the spam folder. they all have the exact same text from different people.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
No, that's okay. You don't have to email Jeremiah about that.
I was whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back to what we were talking about earlier, and you just brought it up again. You're alone out there most of the time, and I think you said a lot of people go down there. They're there for 9 months or whatever, then they disappear. I think a lot of people romanticize the idea of being by themselves. Like, I gotta escape. I'm gonna be by myself, and I don't want to see people. I just wanna be on my own. And then they get to be on their own, and it's very different. Is that a challenge for you when you got down there and you were all of a sudden
It was
very
more of
isolated?
It was more of a challenge in 2008 when I kind of tried to do this for the first time in Oklahoma after my divorce. And then that area I moved out to, it really did kind of sketch me out. And I liked it, but I didn't want to know any of the neighbors. So that was like thing number one when I was looking for land this time was, stopping, talking to people, getting the lay of the land, making sure I was going to be able to kind of make some friends and assimilate or fit in a little bit. And yeah, it worked out great. I'd met, get along with all of my neighbors. I've had, trading favors, helping them out with things and vice versa with all of them. So yeah, it's a great little setup. And then through some of the people I've met that've been there for a while, it's funny. I talk about, being afraid of the building inspector, but, man, all the inspectors I met out there are just great. Some of them are actually friends that, I had dinner with one of the health inspectors who's responsible for the septic systems and things last night, actually, before heading out. So yeah, it's been an easy place for me to fit into. It's been really good. So I'm as alone as I want to be, and there's always somebody I can call or somebody who wants to go do something or.
Yeah, having just like a little bit of a support system around you, I'm sure is very comforting.
And we talk to each other about that all the time, about how important that is to. It's really tough to do it without it. And so I lasted about 2 years in Oklahoma and threw in the towel. So I knew that if I ever did that again, it would have to be better or different in that one specific way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wasn't worried about you living off the grid when you left. I said, I've seen you basically the way you lived here.
What does that mean?
Well, I mean, you lived off all your animals.
Oh,
A lot of what you did, you grew your own stuff to an extent, and you were always tinkering around, building stuff or tinkering around with stuff. So as far as that aspect went, I knew you'd be fine out there. Yeah, it's just the piece that you just mentioned about people.
Yeah, I probably hang out with people more often now than I did in Denver.
Yeah, you didn't hang out with people much here.
No, I had friends who would come by once in a while, but the friends that I've had for years and years, they've got their own careers in totally different directions that they want to go and are going. So yeah, I think maybe having neighbors who are also a little bit starved for attention. It's like, oh yes, please, let's hang out. Versus, oh, I've got kids soccer and all this other stuff that we have to do.
Yeah, see, another reason I'm jealous, man, because you're just alone and not being bothered.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's definitely not, it's not like paradise or something. And, you talked a little bit about advice. Shopping for land, if it's cheap, there's a reason. It doesn't mean it won't work. Because, I bought some of the cheapest land in the country as far as price per acre, which is, I think, one of the big reasons people always end up looking like where I am.
What is the cost per acre down there, approximately?
I paid about $500. I paid a little bit under $500 an acre when I bought down there. And then, the pandemic hit and prices went up. And a lot of stories of people paying well over $1,000 an acre. But still, if you want something where you can grow lots of corn, like Iowa type soil, the price per acre out there, it's thousands and thousands for prime farmland. It's really expensive.
Yeah, I think in some parts of Colorado you can get
close in Colorado. Yeah.
Yeah.
Under $1,000 an acre for sure.
Yeah. If you go way out of the way in rural Colorado with no trees, no trees and no water, you can get close to that. And then if you want some trees and a little bit closer, to the middle of Colorado, you're probably 5,000 to 10,000 an acre.
And that's water's a big one. Arizona has pretty good, as far as I guess it can be real hit or miss in Colorado. You apply for a well permit and maybe you get it, maybe you don't. Depending on your situation, it might be guaranteed. I'm not sure. Arizona, if you're more than 500 foot from some sort of water system, or if it's, I don't know exactly what the footage is, but if you've got 40 acres, you can get a well. It's just as simple as that. So you just call the company and write the check. They come out and do it. Like Utah has very interesting water laws. The whole West, water rights are a big deal.
Yeah.
So that was one of the big advantages of Arizona over other places was the well's a certainty, pretty much. Compared to like New Mexico, which is super similar. In some ways, it's some of what New Mexico I drove through today, I think the land prices are probably similar. It is really pretty, greener than where I am. But they've implemented a statewide building code. So if you're building out in the boonies, you're still building to the same building codes as somebody in Santa Fe or Albuquerque. So I've seen some horror stories online with that. But even in Arizona, county by county, and a lot of it's like how wealthy is the county. The wealthier the county, the more strict the building codes are going to be, the less they'll let you get away with, the bigger the minimum dwelling size, things like that. So if you are shopping for land, you have to really look at all of that. And some of it's state-based, some of it's county-based.
Yeah. And make sure you do your research.
Yeah.
Understand the systems that you're going to want to put in place for water, for electricity, like you had asked
Septic.
about heat. Oh, septic.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you do for septic?
Had a regulated, inspected septic put in. Licensed. Yeah. So it's all good, by the book, inspected and everything.
Is that the
So it's like 1,000-gallon cement tank with two sections and like a way for just the liquid to pass from one to the other, and then a leach field, they call it.
Yeah.
In my case, I think it's 150-foot length of perforated pipe buried down about 4 foot in a bed of gravel. So that just lets the liquid kind of spread out through the ground.
Yep.
And it has to be a certain distance from the property line and a certain distance from the well to be safe. But
Yeah.
so that's it.
Yeah. I
So I've
forgot
got-
to ask you about that earlier.
Got the big old septic system, and I put about 5 gallons a day into it. It's not very cost effective, really, if you look at it, but
They won't let
should be
you-
good forever.
They won't let you just use the bathroom somewhere, have an outhouse or nothing like that.
I mean, if you did that, somebody would have to complain before it was a problem until you go try to build a permanent house. And then they're going to want to know, okay, well, where's the septic that we're hooking up to? So I don't know. You could try to get away with it and roll the dice. There's the county's pretty flexible. This is Apache County specifically. They'll look at alternative systems, composting systems, and things like that. And I just didn't go into it. I wanted the property when I was done with it to be able to, somebody could buy it with a mortgage, so that really get the money back out of it. Because you see other counties farther south are even in some ways more flexible, where you can basically understand, kind of sign a waiver saying, okay, it's like an experimental property. I'm just going to do my own thing. And they're like, okay, you signed the waiver, do what you want.
Yeah. If you die, it's on you.
Right, I guess.
Yeah.
But I've heard of people like doing sort of legitimized but kind of strange 50-gallon septic systems where they bury a 50-gallon metal barrel and build their own leach field and call it a day. But I don't know.
So you see some of these YouTube channels where, I don't know, man. I feel like some of the guys are showing off their girlfriends and they're doing this glamorous YouTube stuff. It's not real life, off the grid stuff. And I've actually looked up one of these ones in particular, and I seen where they were at. Like, they were literally like a quarter mile in the woods from the city.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Just that close, huh?
They were that close, and they're wearing designer clothes, and they're making off-grid hot tub. They're doing an off-grid shower, but there's like a Lowe's like.
Oh, yeah.
He said,
That's like the whole, what was Bear Grylls TV show called?
Oh.
You know, where he would do all the crazy stuff, and then
Sleep in the hotel room secretly.
yeah. Somebody's like, this shot was taken like 10 feet from the highway.
Yeah. So there are those channels out there, and I don't want to go too far into that, but if somebody really wants to look at going off grid and moving out of the city and doing something like you're doing, what are the best channels that you've seen, or best people that you've seen? Or I don't know if it's necessarily a YouTube channel, but where can they get the best information, do you think?
Boy, it seems like I learn everything off YouTube these days, and I don't have any channels like that really jump into mind.
You get pieces of information from different channels.
Yeah, I
know
get
you
pieces
mentioned a
from
couple
all over
earlier.
the place. A lot of that has to do with the the permaculture and the growing and the food forests and things.
And then the compressor, you had mentioned the guy earlier.
Yeah, the Fry TV guy. He's not. I don't know if he's really off grid. That's kind
No,
of.
but that system for the well.
Yeah, the airlift pump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that guy, and then solar panels. What if?
Will Prowse, Prowse. He's really well known.
Yeah.
He's making bank on his YouTube. He's doing great.
Yeah. I'm sorry you mentioned these earlier, but I wanted to kind of just recap it.
Yeah.
Now that we've talked about all this, and just kind of, because people, if they're listening.
Yeah, I've picked up a ton from him, and he's not strictly off grid. You want to do anything with solar, and he's gotten into his Teslas and stuff like that, and likes to charge his Teslas at home.
But he would be a good resource for somebody who wants to build a solar system.
At the best, yeah. And
The
he's got a
best.
DIY solar forum as well, so you can, go search. And I mean, all these people are on there building their different systems and, trying to get product recommendations and seeing who's good and who's not. So yeah, those two together, you can learn anything you want. Get a PhD in solar system design for free, basically, from him and between YouTube and his forum.
Nice, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. I know you came to Denver for a couple days and stopped by to do this podcast with us, and I appreciate your time, man. I really appreciate you dropping by.
Excellent, outstanding.
Yeah. Was there anything else you want to hear from Brian so you can get off grid?
I mean, I don't know. You told us a lot, but I'm impressed.
Oh,
I guess the question that I had was how, not to stretch this out, but like when you, were you nervous when you went I guess you mentioned you had already done this before, kind of, but were you like really nervous when you went down there and you're just like, all right, it's all on me now?
yeah, this was a lot different. I had, the last time it was during the housing meltdown. I found like a really cheap 2.5 acres with a fairly new double wide on it, and cost less than like a new Camry. So it was dirt cheap, and it let me get my finances back in order. But I mean, everything was there. They had a well, plus it was on rural water. It was on like a rural electric co-op, which if there was a rural electric co-op, I'd consider it. That's a whole different deal than Excel. That was a well-run machine. I really liked that, the co-op model. But this case, it was just bare land. There was nothing. So I got out there and you remember that trailer I built that sort of looked like a cargo trailer?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I camped in that for a month.
Yeah. It was very small.
Yeah. It was 8x4 with a little bit of a V-neck on it. Yeah. So I
It
camped.
wasn't really tall either.
I could stand up in it. Yeah.
You could?
Yeah. I made it just tall enough.
I thought you had to crouch over to stand in it.
No, I put a nice peak on it.
Oh,
could only
okay.
stand right in the middle.
Okay. Well, yeah.
But no, it was perfect. So I camped in that for a month, and then, 2 doors up the road, they had that rental available. So I took that for 6 months, 7 months while I built the workshop to move into. And someday I might build a house. But so it was very different. I wasn't nervous. I felt like mostly just from acquiring all the knowledge, and maybe that's, I don't know, maybe I just got lucky, but no, I felt like I knew enough that I could absolutely pull it off. Actually, I'm way overconfident. I thought it'd be much easier, much faster.
So that's your do the learning before you go out there. Don't get out there and try and
The
figure
more
it out.
you can, the better. I wish I had better advice for like how to kind of ease into it, but I don't know.
I would have been surprised if you said that you were nervous. I didn't think you. I thought you would answer the way you did.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
No.
And you think after I kind of semi-failed at it once, I should be, but no, I was like, I got this.
Yeah.
I got this.
Yeah. I figured. Are you going to start a YouTube channel anytime soon? Start posting stuff? I know I've talked to you about this before.
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
What will you call it so we can tell people to look for it?
No idea.
You're going to call it No Idea?
Sure. It's probably taken, though.
Yeah.
Well, look for him. Maybe he'll start posting some soon. Brian Parks. Maybe you'll see Brian Parks' YouTube channel coming soon. Off grid, real off grid.
It could happen. It could happen.
Yeah, it's not Alaska or nothing, but it's the opposite spectrum of Alaska.
Yeah, that actually, there is some sort of off-grid homesteading show, probably on Discovery, And my parents made me watch the one, Snowflake, Arizona is real close to where I am. And there was somebody out there. And man, they made it look like it was Death Valley with killer cows and just, oh, it was ridiculous. My parents were so freaked out when they watched this Discovery Channel. Homesteader Rescue. Does
And
that
you're
sound
chilling,
right?
you're chilling, eating goat cheese and watching YouTube.
Yeah, I make mac and cheese out of the goat cheese, and it's really good. And
Yeah, doing fine.
yeah, I'm doing great. There, yeah. So
Right on, Brian. Appreciate your time, man. It's been
Excellent,
great, man.
excellent.
Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
Yeah, appreciate it. All right, Michael.
Cool.